The bartender was cool as fuck. He gave me 3 shots of bourbon because I showed him my tattoo. It was not a gay thing. It was just a Viking thing. He had a big V here and runes on his knuckles and shit. And I just straight up was like, dude, dig the runes, brother. And I was like the big V shirt. And he was like, yeah, man. He was like, is that your dad over there? And I was like, yeah, man. And he was like, all right, let me pour you some shots. And I was like, oh, he's like, he lays off the drink a little bit. He has to limit himself to like 3 drinks a night. And he was like, all right, well, these 2 are for you then. And I was like, all right. I was like, I'm on work travel, so that's fine with me. Anyway.
This is going to be the best beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
Matt drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Telling stories about drinking.
Drinking from like 30 minutes ago, right? Like, or an hour ago. Anyway. Dude, and then I went downstairs to get a few beers from the lobby of the hotel. And there's like literally 100 middle schoolers down there.
Yeah, I'd need alcohol if that was me.
Trying to check in, and I'm trying to buy like a couple of these big Bud Light. And like the person checked, like the lady at the counter was just like looking at me. And I was like, I just want to buy these real quick. He literally, like, so these like youth leaders are like arguing over all this paperwork and this bullshit and whatever. And she looked at me and she just looked at me and she was like, do you want to pay with a card or your room? And I was like, I got cash right now. And she's like, okay. She's like, I'll tell you what, give me $5 and get the fuck out of here. And I was like, all right.
Sold. Yeah.
And it was normally probably would have cost like 15, but she was like, give me like $5 to get the fuck out of here. All right. So anyway, Hilton Garden Inn, highly recommended for all of you non-Americans.
Nice.
If I had any kind of like agency, you know, outside of being a white man, I would write a ridiculously excellent review for the season. But anyway. So yeah, I did read the show notes. I'm ready to contribute, and I think it'll be fun.
Really. Agreed. We've been live for almost 5 minutes, so this is.
I don't actually know how many listeners you guys generally have these days, so this should be entertaining. People will be like, "Who the fuck is that guy?"
Well, I can tell you that we have more listeners currently than International Liberty or Death. You guys got to get another show out, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, fucking Tyler just had another baby, which is totally beautiful, amazing thing. I mean, you know how it is, man. We've definitely been like on the hiatus, which is happened.
That's all right.
But yeah, I'm gonna dive right in. You guys do your thing, and I'll just try to contribute, appropriately.
Cool.
We need your help to support.
All right. Let me read the thing. We'll tell everybody who everybody is, and then we'll let Tim do the bit. Do the bit, Tim.
Do the bit, Tim. We need your help.
Sorry, we can't cuss on your podcast yet, right? Don't do that.
No, we can cuss on the podcast. I mean, we should try to keep it to a minimum, but I definitely said the F-bomb several times last episode because I was getting annoyed about something.
Yeah, like
don't do that.
Don't celebrate it, but
I'm purpose to be a dick. I don't want to be a dick. That's all. Sorry, I'm trying to respect it. Honestly.
Once I told Trudeau to heck off.
I believe that. Let's do the intro though.
Butt monkey.
Hello to all you Patriots that have been listening to. I think I'm just going to leave this in the last 5 minutes of solid Matt content.
Yeah.
For episode 165 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the #1 drunken podcast in a Maryland hotel room. We're recording on June the 10th, 2019.
I think you had the episode number wrong. I think you said 165.
We're at 186.
186 today. I don't know. Matt's drunk. I'm confused.
165 to 186, dude.
Close enough. Close enough. Although maybe I just didn't hear you right. We could fix it in post.
We're just
gonna leave it.
186. We're just gonna leave it.
Fuck it. We're doing it live. All right. Well, my name is Gavin. I'm a business owner, hunter, atheist, gun enthusiast, volunteer first responder, and CCFR field officer for the GTA.
My name is Ian. I'm the preparedness-minded hobby farmer, reloader, and freshly minted CCFR field officer from Mid-Vancouver Island.
My name is Matt. I'm an American libertarian, and I don't remember what I wrote down, but long story short, I'm definitely not on the Trump train per se, but I'm also not on the suck my dick, I'm a Democrat train. So take that as you will. I forget what I wrote down.
Accurate.
It was cooler. There's a lot more intellectual what I wrote down and had more nuance, but like I said, fuck nuance when I decided to jump.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it, Matt, you just hate trains.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
on Pride Month.
I might touch on it later, but like honestly, like a lot of people misinterpret me as like being some sort of Trump lover. But, like seriously, dude, I'm not. I mean, I'm my own thing, and I don't buy a lot of it. You know, I was a supporter for a bit, but now I don't buy a lot of it. I think a lot of it's pretty bullshit, and a lot of it.
Once you say that,
a lot of it has to do with a couple letters in the alphabet. One of them is J. So anyway.
I'm Liberal Tim. I'm a husband, father of 3, and a sports shooter. I'm also a proud descendant of immigrants.
Nice. I like it. I try to be a sport shooter. I try to be a good sport when I shoot. Even in the bedroom.
As always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, competitive shooter, firearms instructor, and I'm going to need an intern to edit this.
No, that's fine. You just leave it in.
Dude, hey, I asked you before I got on if you're okay with it.
This is going to be fun. So we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, especially this one. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
Andrew's not reading the notes, so check the podcast ad on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
Sorry, I was waiting for Tim to do the bit. I was all excited because he hasn't been on a bit, and I got distracted.
I thought you were texting your lawyer.
Are you guys
Okay.
No.
Are all you guys on Instagram? Like, honest question, like how productive is that for you guys? Honestly, you don't have to get into numbers and stuff. I'm not trying to get.
For the podcast, it is not. Most of our user interaction is actually through email. Runner-up is Facebook.
Sometimes you get a cassette mailed to you.
I don't even do Instagram. I've given up on social media. I think I probably would get a lot more out of it if I cared, but I kind of don't care about a lot of aspects of life.
Stay tuned for like stories number 1 and 2 of this week's podcast, if we get that far.
Yeah.
All right.
We need your help. To support the show, visit patreon.com/CPP to become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Go to the homepage and follow the link on the right.
Do it.
Time for my favorite part of the show. It's called Where We're Drinking. Every week, What Are We Drinking is brought to us by Arrowhead Coffee. Arrowhead Coffee is owned and operated by Canadian Armed Forces veterans. They love our country, the true north, strong and free, their family and friends. Join Arrowhead Coffee on their hunt for the perfect brew to raise morale and bring that feeling of home to you no matter where you are. A portion of all profits helps Canadian Armed Forces members, veterans, and their families. And now I get to ask everybody, what are you drinking? We're going to start on my screen going from left to right with Gavin. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Jack Daniels and Coke Zero this evening.
Nice. Ian, how hard are you wage cucking?
I am on the wage cucking train. I'm wage cucking like a mofo, so I have to drink some green tea tonight again.
Matt, what are you drinking?
Drinking Vienna Lager. It's from a Virginia brewery in the state of Virginia. Pretty good. It's a little amber for a lager. So it depends what you're into, but it's very tasty. Local brew, try to support the states that I love and would die for.
Tim, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Crown Royal and reverse osmosis water.
Would you die for reverse osmosis water?
I would die if I didn't get it.
That is very true. That is very true.
Not as patriotic as Matt, but I'll give it to you.
Purity of that.
But would you drink Crown Royal and Dr. Pepper, or would that need to be reverse osmosis Dr. Pepper as well now?
No.
I thought we banned
out of curiosity. I'm just curious. Just
Not
curious.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we banned Dr. Pepper based on their advertising this month.
Pretty sure Dr. Pepper is neither pepper nor a doctor.
It's very unfortunate, their marketing team. I don't know. If
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess given that they're a doctor, maybe they're anti-gun too.
I
So
didn't
yeah,
do that in the States. I'm just saying. I don't want to interfere with your the outline of the show, but like I didn't see that marketing campaign in the States. But like it's a fucking soda.
I mean, it could just be that particular.
Just drink the damn soda because it tastes good. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're married to a gay man or woman. Like drink the damn soda because it tastes good. What's with the identity politics for a soda? Anyway. Anyway.
All right, let's get into the news.
It's their month, Matt. And for the 11, as the only liberal on the show, I have to say, the other 11 of the months, you get to enjoy marketing targeted at you. So you just give them the damn month, okay? I don't care if you're a Versa Power Bottom or whatever. Just drink the
I'm not.
You probably need a doctor.
I'm sorry to the listeners because there's like 3 people that are listening that are going to know what we're talking about, and to everyone else, I'm sorry. I'm not finding the Dr. Pepper ad that described different sexual positions in relation to a soda can.
Do we have an intern?
Yeah.
We lost our intern. Our intern went to work for Dr. Pepper.
No.
Shit. See, I failed.
All right,
I just Googled Google. Okay.
All right, let's do some news. We're going to start with 2 related stories. One's the Post Millennial, and there's a follow-up article on Spencer Fernando. So the first one, Post Millennial, Trudeau government considers shutting down social media platforms that refuse to obey election interference demands. And the second article on Spencer Fernando, basic dictatorship, Trudeau Liberal government considers shutting down social media as election approaches. So both of these articles are referencing French language outlets, Le Journal de Montréal, where Karina Gould, who's the the woman that's currently the Liberal Minister of Democratic Institutions. She's also your MP from Burlington, so thanks for that, Burlington. She is refusing to rule out shutting down social media during the elections in October if social media companies don't comply. This is to do with something new that the Canadian government came out with, I think a whopping week, maybe 10 days ago, the Canada Declaration on Electoral Integrity Online. This is a list of demands from our government that Microsoft, Google, and Facebook have already capitulated to. And surprisingly, Twitter has not, which is what the basis of all the articles is that Twitter is not just going along with this. And I am, for one, shocked that they're not just bowing to the Liberal government demands.
Why don't you tell the folks at home what capitulated means?
To fall in line and do with what the government wants.
There we go. That's a mouthful.
It was on my word a day calendar.
Yeah.
Is this a I want to say First Amendment question, but I understand it's partially like an American thing. Is this a question about speech, or is this a question about like her position?
Yes.
Like whatever you want to argue about or talk about.
I mean, like, let me get my Ron Swanson soundboard here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all government is a waste of taxpayer money.
So, I mean, we could talk about her position.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the Democratic Republic of the Congo. As soon as they say democratic, it's usually anything but. And so the Democratic Institutions Minister, it sounds a lot like Orwellian nightmares.
Yeah, I guess technically, like, outside or non-Canadians are not allowed to interfere. I guess no one's allowed to interfere, but like Americans or whoever are not allowed to make comments and try to do things about elections and influence them in any shape or form. There's laws against that.
Well, this is, and I mean, Don on YouTube points this out. This is Trudeau's admiration for China's basic dictatorship. This is because we don't want to have election interference in the upcoming election, because when everything was leaning to the left and they could get free advertising from global homo corporations like Google and Facebook, they were all for the free advertising. And now that populism is popular,
I mean,
the current government's doing everything in their power to try and put a stop to what they're deeming as election meddling.
I mean, like, what's his face? The British guy with the TV show, John Oliver.
Harper.
Right before, they had the election with Harper and Trudeau. Like, he got up on his TV show and like did this whole thing with Mike Myers and like was like basically fuck Harper, vote Trudeau. And like nothing ever happened with that. And like he even admits to, before he goes and does the bit, that there is a fine of some ridiculous amount of money for this. And they didn't ever pursue that, which you think they would have, even just for the money, because that's what the Liberal government loves more than anything else, is other people's money. But they didn't do anything because obviously they prospered and won the election. But now that it's potentially going to damage them, they're, all for, oh, no, better play by the rules, folks.
I know. I think there's something fucked up with your Liberal Party. I think something weird is happening. And I'm going to be the first person to say I understand if me saying that without being able to put a strong supporting amount of evidence with it to support that kind of statement.
Oh no, there's plenty of evidence.
But there's something kind of like screwy about this upcoming election with you guys. And I think you guys, like, I don't know who's a watchdog, whatever you want to call it up there. We have like investigator generals, and we have like, watchdogs that work in our elections and stuff. And I don't know what
we
you guys
have those
there,
to a certain degree, but
they're all liberal.
They're not really separate from the government. They're mostly just arms of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
So the government will investigate itself and find that it's done nothing wrong.
And then they'll find that they were actually owed like, $20,000 each.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. So I am shocked that Twitter has not immediately capitulated to their demands. And the demands are entirely vague and unreasonable, which is awesome. So Facebook has agreed to not running any political ads in October. Let's see if that holds true.
In Canada or internationally? Because that's
in Canada.
So that's interesting. Because
it is. And also Google and Microsoft have signed on to this. And I don't know really what Microsoft, they don't have a social media platform, so I'm not sure what their involvement is. But
hey, remember when Harper drowned that 2-year-old?
Yes.
Right before the election?
Yeah.
That was the
I mean, like, not actually, but like,
I don't know. Well, yeah, essentially.
But like,
virtually.
I mean, he's literally Hitler.
With my feelings.
Yeah.
The most important thing.
Yeah.
Did that actually happen? Because there's a terrible, sad story about a very famous country artist that I actually really like.
I was just talking about how partisan the media was and the social media, especially in between.
Partisan media is kind of
to
like
the election in 2015.
Yeah.
The media is not.
Well, yeah.
The first topic is like really about the media, right? So it's not even about right. It's about the fact that we allow ourselves to be subjugated to a force of, or not even a force, but like we allow ourselves to be subjugated to a group of people that put words on paper and tell us what's happening, and we just let ourselves go with it. Like we let ourselves be subjected to it.
Subjected. That's a good segue. I'm using that. Let's look at this one from the CBC. Sunday school teacher says she was searched at Vancouver Airport after angry guard failed to find drugs. Canadian Border Services Agency investigated more than 800 allegations of misconduct over a 2-year period. And kudos to the CBC for their terrible reporting, because the very first line of the story is this is in fact a former Sunday school teacher, and we later find out she worked in a law firm, and then it was like incidental that she happened to also teach Sunday school. But I mean, far be it from the CBC to not.
I mean, that
pick
makes for a
something to
better
make
headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just point out that misconduct would be a pretty good stripper name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's been used a few times.
If it
I have
hasn't
not
been, I'm
been
signing up with
I've
it.
not been to enough clubs to know that, but I would agree with Gavin. That sounds like a pretty good. Sorry, I'm trying to fart. Oh, there that goes. That sounds like a really good stripper name, to be honest.
Yeah. Only if they wear a cop outfit, though. Or a TSA outfit, I guess.
I do
Well,
love how
CBSA in this case.
I do love how they break down the strip search by item search there.
It's important to draw a picture for your audience. When
Well,
Yeah.
best part is she goes. It was all surprising and traumatizing. Like, well, what do you think they meant when they said they're going to strip search you? I mean, yeah, they're gonna check your prison wallet for sure. I mean, if they think if you're muling drugs, yeah, they're going to check everything. Chances are they're going to check the most common method of carrying drugs.
Yeah, can't they just get a dog to sniff her ass though? Like,
well, they
but
had
dogs
a dog
do that
sniffer
anyway.
ass.
Yeah, dogs do that anyway.
or her front ass, whatever.
But
So I'm not trying to make light of this person's situation, but I mean, like, this is part of living in a modern country.
They barely even strip.
Misconduct.
What does Sadiq Khan say about living in London? This is just part and parcel of living in a modern country.
Yeah, in a modern. Yeah.
I guess this is just part of being in Vancouver.
Can you compare that town to, like, what would you compare it to in terms of a United States town, if you could? So
Vancouver?
The city of London, England?
No, like Vancouver.
You're talking about London right now. No, because
I was drawing a comparison to Sadiq Khan, who's the mayor of London.
Yeah. So most Americans, like a lot of Americans, are probably that ignorant.
Fair.
Vancouver would be a state capital. So where this person is from would be like a state capital. There's, I don't know, what's Metro Vancouver, like 2 million people?
About 3 anyway.
3 million.
Yeah, but how many county?
Like the mayor of
2,000.
Culturally, though, I would say like very similar to Seattle, right?
Yeah, imagine the mayor.
It's on the left. It's full of people that are from the left.
Well, yeah, but like a weird mix of maybe like Seattle and California.
Whoa! Let's leave the Irish out of this, Gavin.
I resemble that remark.
Except they got stabbed like way excessively.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the Irish decided, to stop bombing. But anyway.
But the interesting thing is too.
I can say that because that's my people.
Weird mix.
Yeah.
I'm with Matt. Those are my people, and I'm also not sure that not bombing things was the best call. But
actually, way more Irish than German. So I had this big enlightenment thing in my brain happen.
So you're not sure if you want potatoes or sauerkraut? Is that?
I
guess that's really potatoes or more potatoes.
I'm like 48% like Irish from like the specific county in Ireland, and I thought for the longest time I was like way more like German.
What is it they say? They say what?
Yeah. Podcast. Come on, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm sorry.
They say about German and Irish people, like who are half German, half Irish. They're like, this has to be done absolutely perfectly tomorrow.
After beer.
After beer.
And whiskey.
And sauerkraut.
After pub.
And some good broth. Sorry, I'm really not trying to screw your shit up. I'm sorry. You need to log off.
All right. What were we talking about? Strip searching.
We're talking about strip searching Sunday school.
That's a fun topic.
Yeah.
Well, see, unlike regular cops, they don't need warrants for pretty much anything. They can not just stop you at the border; they can stop you anywhere, and they can strip search you, grab your phone, grab anything they want, and no warrant required. So, I mean,
at gunpoint with threat. Which really, it's not just they can take your phone or whatever. It's at the end of the whole like extrapolation of force parameters that are allowed. Sure, it starts off with like I can take your phone, I can do this.
Well, yeah, I mean you don't have to give it, but
at the end of it is the lethal force. They can use lethal force against you.
Oh yeah, but not even that. Like they don't need to. It's just if you don't want to submit to that, it's like okay, well you can't get on the plane and go home or go to wherever you need to go for work. It's like,
Right?
so
No, they
either
don't.
I go get
They
finger
also
banged
kill
in the
you if they
a-hole,
use you.
or I lose my job. Like,
Right? No, but they can kill you at the end of the day.
yeah,
Seriously, that's their force parameters.
Yeah.
If you resisted them enough, they can just kill you.
Yeah,
about
but
that?
other than a C average in high school, what other education do these people have that they can just say, "Hey, you're a drug smuggler, and I believe you're a drug smuggler"?
well, I'm pretty sure they've got to take some sort of class on how to apply the rubber glove properly so that like they don't get some weird disease, and then hopefully they take a class on how to apply enough lubricant to the glove for the people on the receiving end's sake.
I'm
Gotta
pretty
be
sure,
How
pretty
not?
sure they
How
have
not?
their personality surgically removed in order to get
Yeah.
on the job because they have to have like zero sense of humor. But also, the interesting thing is with this is this woman was dating a man from Mexico, so she's going back and forth a bunch of times. So
That's
if you're this
So,
low income,
yeah,
if you're a low income lady going back and forth to Mexico a bunch of times, what would you think as a border agent? She's going to be red flagged for sure.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
She
I mean,
had
the
a Mexican
easy
husband.
solution is just like build a wall.
Yeah, she had a Mexican
Around
husband,
Vancouver?
Yes.
I mean,
You got to make
There are
Vancouver
worse
great again,
things.
right?
so that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Yeah, I
probably,
probably just assumed because she had a
probably-
Mexican husband that he was like,
probably loves guacamole. But
Yeah.
aside from that, like, I mean, it's easy
yeah. But the thing is,
easy to talk trash about a woman like that. That like you have to go out of your own country to find like quote unquote love or attraction. But really, like I'm contradicting some things I've said in the past. But like that really shouldn't matter. But the big problem
No.
is,
But I mean, if you fly back and forth to a country that is known to be involved in the drug trade,
yeah,
you probably should expect that they're going to stop and question you a little bit. Like,
I'm
yeah,
okay with them stopping and questioning. It's if the
Yeah.
behavior of the
But-
agent involved was actually as egregious as she makes it out to be in her claims.
then,
But
yeah,
I mean, I
absolutely.
wouldn't
Yeah,
be
that's the
surprised
problem.
because, like Ian said, most of these people have no sense of humor. So it
Yeah,
could
and
just be that he was just.
problem. I mean,
So my-
all of a sudden these people like literally exist on a plane where they have power to do things that have such ramifications on people's lives. And
But-
you're existing in a border area to where the normal regs of the law when it comes to warrants and the fourth in our
Yeah, you're
country,
in-
the Fourth Amendment, the right to search and seizure. I'm sure there's a similar.
Yeah, you're in a
right.
weird gray area zone. Where
Yeah,
it's-
it becomes this gray area, and so all of a sudden there's just like this freaking like these people get this power trip. Like I've seen it happen.
These people are also used to having people lie to them 24/7. Like these, you
Oh,
get
for sure, yeah.
agents, and 9 times out of 10, they'll ask a question, and the people won't give them a truthful answer. So
even their spouses.
probably,
I don't know. Do you
Maybe-
think
maybe-
really? Truthful answer 9 times out of 10? I don't know.
Okay, I have a question though. Here's the thing, and this is what they got to study: is how many times has this Knapp fella been right on his hunch that someone's a drug smuggler, even though the
I
dog?
think Knapp is the
didn't
woman in
signal.
question, but
Oh, I thought Knapp was the officer.
it's okay. I can understand your confusion.
There's a guy named Knapp. That sounds like an asshole.
Anyway, I'm just saying,
what
like
was the actual
dog,
question, though, Tim?
yeah, the drug sniffing dog didn't detect anything. So at that point, like wouldn't you just trust the damn dog? Like if there has never been a case where the dog didn't signal and you still found drugs, then this person's justified. If not, they're not qualified to do the
At that
job, and
point,
they should
the
get the fuck out of there.
Should probably go
Well,
to the.
I would contend that the vast majority of people that work for CBSA aren't
doctor.
qualified to do the job, but most of it's security theater, right?
Yeah, but dogs can
Oh, yeah.
smell lung cancer for Christ's sake. I'm pretty sure they can smell cocaine and a condom up your ass, or whatever the hell they're smuggling out.
Yeah, from hanging out with guys that have like search dogs and stuff like that. Yeah, like they can smell week-old footprints. Pretty sure they could smell drugs on somebody. So if it doesn't do anything at all, there's either nothing or that shit is hidden good. Like,
Yeah, this is
What I go back to in all these types of like discussions, and this is it gets a little bit away off topic, but like this whole discussion, what is the crime that quote unquote is committed that we would be talking about? What is the crime that we're talking about? Honestly, who can codify it? What crime are we talking about?
Drug smuggling.
Okay. Why is that a crime? That's my legitimate question.
The government's not getting their tax cut on it.
Yeah,
No,
I'm not sure if you've met the government before, Matt. That's because
that's
they
what I'm
say
getting
so.
at. That's what I'm getting at. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Fucking libertarian. I believe in borders. I'm not one of those fucking guys, but I believe in borders. But like, what are we talking about? What's the crime we're talking about? Drug smuggling? Drugs? What? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we threatening people? Is there like infringement on somebody's liberty? You know what I'm getting at?
Well,
like
Matt is on the Segway train. I've got another one where we're actually talking about something that we're exporting through our airports.
I should be contracted for Segways and like,
you just got to talk to Dean Cain. That's so just juxtaposed to our allegedly drug smuggling into the country.
I like that word.
Deadly.
Juxtaposed. Sorry.
It was in my word a day calendar. Global news. Deadly export. Canadians responsible for hundreds of terrorism deaths and injuries overseas.
100?
So since 2012, I'm using scare quotes, Canadians have been responsible for injuring and killing more than 300 people in other countries.
So I have an idea. So you know how we're getting these people to do like the whole haiku thing when they return to Canada? What if we just make them do the whole haiku thing before anyone leaves the country? Then the problem is solved.
Or we could use the CBSA to just prevent them from traveling.
Yeah, well, I guess where there's that. Stick the TSA on them to finger their booty hole so they can't walk anymore.
Yeah, I think
right.
The majority of the country would get behind that as opposed to looking at
pedagogy.
But no, not looking at like it's better to fight crime and international terrorism instead of looking at Sunday school teachers assholes.
Yeah.
What I do with Sunday school teachers is nobody else's business.
Well, certainly not the government.
That didn't land. All right.
Try harder with that.
I'll work on it. So we've got a lot of people that have apparently joined Islamic State, Al Qaeda, and their affiliates like Hezbollah and was it Al Nusra? They mentioned one other group in the article, and their name now escapes me.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I think I know what you're talking about.
ISIS. They joined ISIS.
They joined ISIS.
Yeah.
Fuck ISIS.
Yeah.
Bunch of little pricks.
Oh, that's a good. You know what? I might have to change the outro music today. I hope that Matt Best and the Black Rifle Coffee guys won't get mad, but I think we're playing "Fuck ISIS" as the outro music.
Yeah, no, I think that's appropriate. Yeah, we'll give them credit. Credit where credit's due.
And technically Canadians, I don't think most of these guys were born and raised here and raised in like rural Alberta or something, and then decided to just randomly join ISIS. We're talking about paper Canadians. I'm
I looked at the names, and I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush or whitewash someone, but Canadians in scare quotes. There's a lot of people here that don't have. There's not a lot of John Smiths going to wherever they're going and committing terrorism. I guess.
Well, it's all been said before, but the thing is, these assholes are like such an abomination. Well, first of all, you can have your own opinions about Islam and stuff, but these assholes are such an abomination. Like, it's not even. I mean, they're their own. Like.
Oh yeah, no, I mean
they're goat fuckers, literally, and that's not like some conglomeration. That's not like in a description of all of Islam. That's literally these assholes. Like my buddy that was in the team, he was in the SEAL teams and stuff. Like these guys, like when they were doing recce ops against ISIS and these fucking faggots out in near Syria, some border, I forget which country. Sorry, a lot of them, similar countries you would hear about in the news. Like they literally would see them in Oz and with their IR flashlight banging ghosts in the butt. No bullshit.
That's
not making that up. I'm not making that up.
No, I know. But as Canadians, we know like animals are only for like oral sex.
Yeah. Everything else.
Penetration.
Yeah. Anything else is just disgusting and wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go back to 2014. The RCMP said we have a growing participation of Canadians, again in quotes, in foreign conflicts and acts of terrorism, they're calling for prevention of high-risk individuals from leaving the country. But they're not really sure how to go about doing that because of Section 6 of our charter. So Section 6 of the charter is the freedom of movement clause. So you're allowed, as a Canadian citizen, you're allowed to enter, roam about, and leave Canada without government interference, which I'm okay to, up to a point. Like the same way that I'm okay with, like, if you're drunk driving, the police are allowed to prevent you from roaming about within Canada.
Besides
if you're going to go to
drunken driving, what are the stipulations on that free movement? For someone that's not a Canadian, like what? How would you describe it briefly?
Section 6 of the Charter basically allows for freedom of movement without government interference, with the exception of when you're breaking a law.
Okay.
So if you're
okay.
So if you're drunk driving, if you're illegally transporting goods between provinces, if you're
committing,
I would argue, leaving the country to join a terrorist group, like if you're going to go to Somalia to blow up a courthouse, which is a thing that people from Toronto have done.
This all hinges on you being a citizen. And if you go and commit acts of war on behalf of an unfriendly nation, or against your own nation of Canada, then in my opinion you are no longer a citizen.
Well,
especially if you are only like a paper citizen and we're not born here.
Depends who you talk to.
Well, yeah, this is
sane people. I'd like to talk to sane people.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you want to have a bit of a different stance on whether you're a natural born citizen or not, then that's fine. Then natural born citizens, if they're guilty of all of this stuff, come back here and get hung for treason. And I'm okay with that. Everyone else can just have their citizenship revoked, in which case then they don't have a right to move freely in and out of the country and across the country. They will do so with much, much difficulty.
So I'd like to use an example from the article. So for example, another Canadian who went by Abu Hazayafaya returned to Toronto and told a reporter that he executed 2 prisoners while serving in the ISIS religious police in Syria. So, for example, maybe we could not admit that person back into the country.
Yeah, especially when they admit to having done that.
If you're going to go and execute prisoners while you're serving in ISIS's religious police, you maybe should get the CBSA blue glove treatment.
Yeah.
Why
and then not admitted back into the country.
But why would he? He's not white.
Yeah. Find the biggest guy with the biggest hands, and he's the guy that does the search.
Not being serious. Like, why would he? Like, Trudeau is all about. Trudeau and his supporters are all about welcoming diversity and welcoming.
Yeah, but see that
second chances and like just like a beautiful. Canada's about like second chances and people coming here and all this stuff.
Yeah, but my guess is that if you're part of the whole ISIS,
why not come back?
Yeah, but if you're part of the ISIS police and you go around executing people, they're not exactly fans of diversity over there.
No,
so it's a weird
hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
I don't know. I think. Well, I have my own opinion about it, but it doesn't really matter what my opinion is because you have your own country and I have my own country, and my opinion doesn't really matter. Fuck all in my own country. But like, if I were your country, I'd say, you know what? If you've gone over there and you've executed innocent people, or you've executed people in a crime of war, even if it wasn't a war crime, if you've fought in a war that wasn't voted on by my own parliament or my own Congress. I don't know how you guys vote to go to war, to declare war. But if it's not if it's not for my country, at a minimum, like you're not.
As an aside, I don't know that we actually vote to go to war any longer. I think we just call them police actions since Korea.
That's same with us generally, but normally the power is for Congress to vote to go to war, like declare war, right? I'm assuming it's
I think we just put blue helmets on everybody and send them.
Well, I'm assuming it's normal. It should be a parliamentary action.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got to be similar. Like I'm sure a lot of the. But anyway, like fuck these ISIS assholes. Fuck all.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of my stance on this. Is we're bodily searching Sunday school teachers, as poorly written as that CBC article was, but we're allowing people back into the country that have gone and joined foreign terrorist organizations.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and that's why I'm drawing the dichotomy between the two articles, because if you want to teach Sunday school and work in a law firm, you got to show the government your booty hole. But if you want to go and blow people up in Somalia or attack police officers in Flint, Michigan, then like that's cool. Just come on back.
Yeah. Well, more things that don't make sense. Vegan activists just carry dead animals across downtown Toronto streets.
Oh, that is a pretty good segue. Why don't you tell us about that?
Better off joining the Arkansas branch.
Yeah, let me just pull the article up here. But so I guess there was a protest by some vegans in Toronto where they're literally carrying dead animals in the streets. There's the photo here. There's a guy with a raccoon in his arms, and then there's some more photos here.
Looks like a ghoul.
Yeah, there's a cow, which looks probably really heavy to carry. I think I see a chicken. So a few chickens.
Yeah, so the list of deceased animals included a calf, a coyote, piglets, pigeons, chickens, and mice.
Yeah.
Raccoon's oddly not listed, but shows up in like 3 pictures.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lamb too.
I'd have to walk up and ask them, like, are you gonna eat that?
Yeah.
Can we take a moment to reflect on the poor naming choice of their organization? It's called NARD. As in, you've been kicked in the nards.
Well, Wolfman, as we know, has no nards. Oh, come on. No one else has watched Monster Squad? Oh.
So this is the National Animal Rights Day, or NARDS, or what you get kicked in if you live in Toronto.
You carry a dead animal through the streets.
I want to share a quote from their founder. Most people never seen farm animals in their lives. They only see their body parts on their plates. I want to input that's sick. The SIC, I'm reading it the way it's written. That is not the whiskey talking. Most people never seen farm animals.
Good body.
Fucking Toronto.
Yeah, most people in downtown Toronto guarantee haven't seen ribeye.
This is the problem with people in downtown Toronto that go to NARD. Most people have never seen farm animals.
God bless it.
I don't think the one girl to his left has ever seen sunlight. I'm not sure about that. But
yeah.
And I think the anemia is kind of screaming out at her. Maybe she should consider eating some meat at this point, because I think her iron levels are low. But no, outside of Toronto, I think many of us have actually seen farm animals. Matter of fact, I just processed a few myself a couple days ago.
Nice.
I have definitely seen farm animals.
Yeah, I've even seen farm animals in fucking Toronto.
I got interrupted and I asked him what he just processed, because out of pure curiosity.
2 weeks ago I parted out a bear, and then 2 days ago I parted out 3 roosters.
Nice.
But then
drive the chickens, or do you just like roast them? Or I'm just curious, because like I love good fresh like fried chicken, like it's
Oh, the wife parted them out. We pressure cooked some of them. We made bone broth.
Oh yeah, that pressure cooker. Oh yeah. Me and my wife love that pressure cooker. Anyway, sorry. Dude, that makes me hungry talking about it. Yeah, like fresh.
I know, like.
Anyway.
That's what I got out of this. Is like you guys are holding up pictures of my dinner.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious. Like,
talk about this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like a fresh bear kill. Like when I was talking to my buddies about like the deer I killed last fall. Like it's natural. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what we eat.
Everything on this planet survives by eating something else. And even these vegans have to realize that their field full of grass that gets mowed by a combine kills a bunch of field mice. So unless they're willing to eat nothing but algae and moss,
not just field mice, spawn out like bird, all kinds of fucking like chicks for all kinds of and different types of birds, owls, fawns,
I just want to know where they got these animals from, because if they're so for animal rights, did all these animals die of natural
how
causes?
they have arrived at this,
or were these animals killed purely for their protest? In which case, they're big hypocrites. Like, I'm just curious, because I mean,
well, it's a fair question.
Because like these animals look like they're in awfully good shape.
I asked one of my good friends. I asked him. I said, you know, like this happened a week because he responded to my Facebook posting of the first deer I ever killed, and I haven't been deer hunting in a long time, you know, or I hadn't been deer hunting for that long, and I didn't grow up deer hunting. My dad never taught me how to deer hunt, etc. And I finally took my first deer. It was a spike buck I took last fall, and my buddy sent me a private message and said, literally, it was like, how do you feel about that? And I literally told him, I said, I couldn't be happier. I was like, we took the deer to get processed by a very small business in a very local place in Tennessee, down near Manchester, Tennessee. I've got so many pounds of meat, like dozens of pounds of meat in different ways, like ground meat, stew meat, all my straps, all my steaks, everything, tenderloin, everything. I've also got all the bones. I got bone broth. I've got the spice, for whatever I want to do with them, everything. And I'm supporting a local business. And he was like, how do you feel about it? And I just told him, I'm like, I feel great about it. It's not, I feel like all these questions, especially when we get into these like news articles, when they try to ask us questions, I feel kind of like they're trying to affront us with them. Like all this shit that we're talking about right now, it's literally them trying to put us in a corner. Like they're trying to question us for something.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a huge satisfaction in being able to provide food for yourself and not have to rely on anyone else to do that.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is like them even asking us, like them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Them accusing us. Yeah, it's like where the fuck do you get off with that?
Well, I'm pretty sure we know where they get off.
So they get off
downtown Toronto.
yeah, carrying dead animals.
I don't know. I'm not. I'm not trying to hijack this shit, but I just question the whole. I just question the entire purpose and like the entire drive of the media that creates these articles that we're talking about right now. Like I question their entire prerogative.
Well, it's blog.to.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope it makes sense. I hope I'm not just like full of beer and like not making sense, but like I question their entire prerogative. They don't they have an agenda, dude. They do.
Yeah, they do. That's why we talk about them every week, because ridiculous things people are doing in Toronto, like carrying around dead animals to show people where their food comes from. I don't know when the last time you ate a raccoon was, but
or a mouse.
Yeah.
What the hell do we do about it? Like that's the real question.
Well, someone in the Facebook comments of the article had an idea. He said, "Idiots, run over them."
Yeah.
And then someone who I think
and then you get
would have fit in with the protest said, "Only a person who eats animals would say something ugly and sick like you did. When you eat suffering, you become suffering."
Well,
and that comment got 28 likes.
Yeah, well,
get my dick.
I am suffer then. Yeah, bring it on. Bring
suffer
on
time.
I took up that deer back.
Side note. I went out for dinner for work the other day at Pampa's Brazilian Steakhouse in Alberta. I ate so many dead animals. They were all delicious.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, man. Brazilians and their steakhouses. Woo.
Do they
Man.
slice them off that spit for you, dude? Like, just
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Guy coming around with a meat sword, just being like, "Would you like more of whatever
Yeah.
this is?" And I'm like,
Yeah, you
yes.
might want to rephrase that because saying a guy coming around with a meat sword and you want more of this may go over wrong.
Yeah.
Is that what the kids are calling it nowadays?
Yeah.
No, I think as soon as you
So many.
as soon as you go hunting or process an animal yourself once, you appreciate what the animal has to go through for you to eat, and I think you're going to be less likely to waste food, which is actually a better goal than what these people are aiming for. Because if you're not willing to waste food, you're going to be more efficient and you're going to be better on the environment. So, and anything that I've processed from the wild is organic, free range, antibiotic free, whatever label you want to throw on it, which is still better than their air hammered cow that they're eating in downtown Toronto. So,
This guy, that's exactly correct. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and I'm 100% on board with everything he said. True.
You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm going to stick to feedlot raccoon.
that's right.
Possum in a can.
Well, what are they going to do for the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie now that he's?
That just allows Tim to say he loves coons.
Yeah. Hey man,
I don't know if you can get that. That's
they're delicious too, man.
All right, let's do something that's decidedly less delicious.
We butchered
But just as absurd.
Well, equally absurd. I mean, this one is absurd. We've got a National Post article. Federal prison in Alberta expected to be the first to open supervised drug injection site.
Oh, God.
Okay, so you remember how I didn't want to get on Facebook, and I finally went on for the CCFR, and I got my first Facebook fight about this one.
And did you regret everything?
I may disagree with some people on it. We'll see what happens. I want to hear everybody else first.
Okay, well,
I disagree. I just want this isn't lethal injection, Matt.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
No.
Yeah. So basically they're allowing them to take something that's illegal and a prohibited item in prison, use it in front of them, and therefore it becomes legal, and you're basically enabling the bad behavior. Now, keeping in mind that in my family alone, I have 2 heavy drug users in my family, and this is not going to stop them from being drug users. This is going to just continue the bad cycle. Now, people are talking about harm reduction, but I don't see the harm reduction when basically you're allowing them to continue to commit crimes in prison under supervision, which basically makes it legal.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I would say that my opinions are probably fairly similar to Matt's based on his previous comments in that, like, the only reason that, like, heroin is illegal is because the government says that it is. And you know what? In my opinion, if you want to do that in your own home, it's your body. I just don't want to pay for your healthcare. Give her. So the fact that it's illegal is sort of dumb. However, regardless of what you think about that, is that you are in prison in order to be punished for something you have done wrong. So whether heroin is legal or illegal, you should not be in prison having a good time shooting up heroin. Like, there's no bar. Like, you can't just go, you know what? I'm going to go throw back 6 beers today in prison, but it's supervised, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And if I overdose, they'll protect me.
But that's the thing. First of all, I agree with Gavin, but also, like, as soon as you supervise it, you have a responsibility, and it's just a matter of time before someone gets some assholes shitty heroin using, inmate at a correctional facility is going to die, and then this person is going to win the lottery and they're going to sue the government for like $10 million.
Well, yeah. Whereas if they just did it sort of sneakily and died, then no one would care, and we wouldn't be spending money on their room and board anymore. But yeah, as soon as it's supervised and something bad happens, there needs to be an investigation, which is going to cost money, and then someone's probably going to lose their job, and or you have to go, this person did something horrendous, and that's why they're in jail, and then they got involved with heroin, and then they overdosed while supervised, and now let's just let them out of jail. And it's like, no.
Yeah, but this isn't. You can't just. They can't just take someone from the Canadian Border Service and let them supervise a drug injection site. This is probably going to have to be someone qualified to do so. And it's
they're going to have nurses doing this.
Nurses and doctors. Yeah, there's going to be
doctors. You're going to have to be people that can. Well, where are they going to get whatever it is, heroin or whatever they shoot up these days.
Well,
like,
so this is the fun bit: is the actual drugs are going to continue to not be permitted. They're a banned substance in the prison.
okay.
But if somebody happens to be in possession of some heroin, they're going to be able to go to the safe injection site, get medical supervision, and clean needles to shoot up with.
And so basically, any cost of this program is going to be borrowed with interest from the government because they're already running a deficit.
Yeah.
This entire thing I disagree with. This is different from my opinion about live and let live, my libertarian thing of like, you want to shoot up, you want to smoke pot, you want to do coke, you want to fucking drink, you want to do whatever you want. I don't care as long as you don't infringe on my liberty or endanger anybody else, infringe on their liberty. But if you're in jail,
you've infringed on someone's liberties, which is why you're in jail. Like,
fuck you. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And now by this program costing money, you're infringing on your kids' personal financial freedom because they're going to have to pay it back.
Sounds like some politician is trying to get votes when these people get out of jail, but that's my opinion.
I am diametrically opposed to a clean needle program in our prison system.
Yeah.
We should absolutely not be funding this in any way, shape, or form.
The only clean
These
needle
narcotics are completely illegal, and anyone found with them in prison should be being whatever the reprimand is for additional, like, I am not super clear on how our prison system works aside from what I've seen on Orange is the New Black, which I'm given to understand is not actually how prison works.
Wait, whoa.
There's
So
a
there's
lot
not
of
like
boobies.
hot lesbians just going at it?
There's like, seriously, there's a lot of boobies in that show.
There are a lot of boobies in that show, and talking to somebody that I know that works for
I'm just
Corrections Canada,
those boobies in that show tend to turn on married wifey. So watch the show with your wife.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I will take that under advisement. I am, however, opposed to any level of our government giving these people clean needles or encouraging their bad behavior. Like they're in prison.
I mean, I don't even think they should necessarily get a slap on their wrist for this. Like, if you get caught with heroin in the real world and you go to jail for X amount of time, that should just be added on to your sentence, because what difference does it make? If anything, it should be worse because you're now in an area where it's even more so prohibited.
It's double illegal.
Yeah.
Well,
They banned drugs in prison and they couldn't stop it. Huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Banning didn't work?
But then what they should do is when you're caught with heroin in prison, you should get kicked out of prison and you should get the worst punishment there is, and that's you have to work for a goddamn living and pay taxes.
I thought it was going to go to a healing lodge.
Maybe.
But yes, the punishment is not harsh enough for this, and I don't have an appropriate drop to play because I mean,
how do you
I really
not
want
have an appropriate drop to play?
Because I got nothing that covers this.
Heroin.
Yeah.
I enjoy government functions, like I enjoy getting kicked in the nuggets with a steel-toed boot.
Good. That's actually
As
really
close
good.
as I can. As close as I can
Don't
get.
sell yourself short, dude. Sell yourself. That was actually a good drop.
Wow.
Honestly.
Yeah. This should not. We should not be giving this money. We should not be giving them clean needles. We should not be giving them any needles. We should be further incarcerating them for breaking the rules.
I could think of one needle we could give them.
No,
I believe that's a set of needles. I'm not positive, but I think you're talking about a set of needles.
I
we can get done with proper funding.
Yeah, with research and funding.
The only
More walls, more bars, and more guards.
Why? Okay, one devil's advocate. If they're already in jail,
Thunderdome.
Now hear me out real quick.
I need the practice.
45 seconds. Listen, they're already in jail. They're already doing drugs. They're already butt fucking, anal rape, all this shit going on. If we can give them needles that are clean, that they're not injecting into themselves and other guys, or whatever, maybe cut down a little bit on the AIDS thing. Is that an economical?
No. And I mean, okay, so yes, the rate of AIDS in our federal prison system is ridiculously high.
My argument is purely economical. My argument is economical of what we pay to our prisons. Is it worthwhile to do that?
I'm with what you're saying, and the rate of HIV infection in inmates is like 10 times the rate of the general population in Canada. But I contend that we just stop allowing them near other people.
Yeah.
Even other inmates. Just segregate them all and stop them from injecting anything into one another, whether it's needles or anything else.
The real question is,
it's not like they work for the TSA.
I hope you understand. I was trying to make a serious point about that thing.
Well, I'm with you, but the solution to this is just to keep them all locked up individually.
Yeah.
What's more cost effective for the
solitary confinement for all?
No, what's more cost effective for the Canadian taxpayers? Honestly, that's my question.
Oh, I know. They run about 50 cents a piece.
This is what I do. What's more cost effective for the taxpayer of Canada?
Well, I mean, if we got some hemp and some oak,
or
which
some
I hear makes the finest.
Okay. Now here we go. Okay.
That would be the most cost-effective way.
That's fair.
I mean, it's for the greater good, right?
If it saves just one life.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair to me. Yeah. That same argument. Ask any immediately when a leftist disagrees with that type of argument. Ask them how they feel about abortion.
Yeah.
But don't go there with me, because if you go there with abortion with me, we'll have some problems.
Let's this is more like a retroactive abortion in the next story. Manitoba man jailed after judge says justified self-defense went too far, killing home invader. Matt, do you live in a castle law state?
I'm already fucking pissed off. You fucking self-defense went too far. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. And someone's gonna knock on my fucking hotel door and be like, "What the fuck's going on here?"
No. Tell us how you really feel.
And you can shoot him.
Andrew, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, but in serious question, in Tennessee, the state in which you currently reside, do you have castle law there? If somebody breaks into your home, are you allowed to defend yourself?
Without question.
Yeah. See, we're not really. We have laws for self-defense in this country, but we're...
Just to clarify, I say no question. I'm not trying to be cute or funny. No duty to retreat or anything like that or anything.
Oh, yeah.
No duty to retreat.
Castle law and stand your ground laws, man, I wish we had those.
Yeah, but what we learned up here in Canada, Matt, is a lot of those people are just trying to turn their life around.
That's right.
Well, we'll get to that. That's two more stories down in the stack. Don't read ahead.
No duty to retreat, but same thing with in Texas. But I personally always had a very high mag flashlight with me and stuff, and it's like, there would never be a question asked. But I live near a high school in Texas. I live near a high school in Tennessee. And the first thing I would do would verify the target and have a flashlight, because the last thing I could live with myself with is if I ever shot a high schooler or somebody doing some stupid ass shit. Like, I would verify a target before I ever took a shot. If it was a high schooler or some kid trying to do stupid shit, break in and take my beer, or just climb my fence and get into my pool and strip with their chicks or something, I would never, like, when I
at the same time, though,
I would never just shoot. I would never shoot first. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was in Texas, we had a pool and we were right near the high school. And like, if sometimes, I would never just shoot first.
Yeah, but there's a difference between
I get what you're saying.
Popping your fence and going for a swim and kicking your door in.
Well, yeah. Let me ask you this in the context of this story in Manitoba, as opposed to a high school student going for an illicit swim in your pool. What if you woke up to the feeling of being stabbed? Because this dude in this particular article was already in this guy's house. I mean, technically his mother's house where he resided. But
that wouldn't happen in my house. But anyway.
Buddy woke up because he was getting stabbed, allegedly, by the home invader.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Stabbed in the head.
Yeah. And then
he then allegedly
went too far.
How the fuck is
he then allegedly chased the stabber outside, somehow took his knife, stabbed him 13 more times, the 13th time fatally in the heart. I'm not sure what he did the first 12 times, and then kicked him a number of times afterwards. Which, you know what? I can understand that. You just woke up because some dude was stabbing you in the head. I could see giving that boots after you finished stabbing him back.
Your adrenaline is probably pumping a little bit. You're probably not thinking straight.
So
And
the guy sleeping.
for all you know, you're dying too.
Yeah.
Sleeping, no, just so I know the story, the guy that was sleeping is the one that ended up killing the intruder.
Yes. So the gentleman that was sleeping in the basement of his mother's home in which he resides permanently woke up to being stabbed in the head by a home invader, wrested the home invader's knife from him somehow during the altercation where they ended up outside, and then stabbed the home invader 13 times, finally the 13th being a fatal stab to the heart, and then kicked the home invader a number of times afterwards.
See, when I've done any sort of knife work, we've learned that after you stab, you should punch because those are called accelerators and will help the blood go out. So that's a good thing, in my opinion.
Especially if you punch right into the temple or like the neck area.
But
in my experience,
but you know, maybe I look at things a little bit differently than most people.
It's possible.
So this guy, so he got charged with murder or what?
Manslaughter. Actually, he got charged with manslaughter in the death of the home invader.
Yeah, he didn't plan for the guy to come into his house and stab him in the head and then murder him.
And I believe they've sentenced him to 8 years now.
Yeah.
But they're taking into account time served, which is already a couple of years, because this happened in 2016, and they're just getting around to sentencing it now.
But meanwhile, we've got all kinds of other things that just get thrown out because delays.
So yeah, a bunch of charges are getting stayed because the court cases are taking too long. But
Yeah, but this guy,
self-defense, you got to nail that fucker to the cross, right?
yeah, can't have that.
I don't know.
Well,
What is-
let's talk about having that, because that also dovetails nicely in with the next thing. Jason Kenney, the new premier of Alberta, an article in the National Post. Every right to use reasonable force. Kenney put self-defense laws on the table. I'm not going to criticize the National Post a whole lot, but self-defense laws aren't being put on the table. Self-defense laws already are a thing that exist.
Yeah,
But-
they're just really shitty here.
Well, and in Alberta, Kenney is planning to publicize them a little bit. They're going to change the way that the Crown prosecutors are required to investigate self-defense cases for rural Albertans, which is a positive change in my mind. So this is going to force prosecutors in Alberta to take into account how far the individual is from police response, like how rural they are, and how vulnerable they feel, and whether or not they've made an assessment as to if the attacker may or may not be on drugs.
For the record, if this kind of law ever comes to Ontario, I feel very, 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 very vulnerable all the time.
The phrase you're looking for is based on my training and experience.
I was in fear for my life.
Yeah, I learned this from somebody I know that works in law enforcement. I was in fear for my life, and based on my training and experience.
That sounds fair.
This is the cover your ass statement.
Yeah. I can get on board with that.
Kenny's on with this. They're going to spend a bunch of money, $10 million to hire 50 new Crown prosecutors, plus support staff, plus recruiting, plus retention tools, and a further $5 million to expand drug treatment courts, and an additional $20 million to Alert, which is an RCMP program for, I want to say it's drugs and guns. Somebody should intern that.
Yeah. We'll just believe it. That sounds right.
It's Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team. Yeah, it's drugs and guns. Sorry, had to Google. So yeah, they're going to expand this. The NDP, the previous NDP government in Alberta, that's for Matt's benefit, that's the very socialist government that was in charge of that province.
Yeah, I think even further left than the Democrats.
Liberals are socialist, NDP are communist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point. They had previously
red.
Yeah.
They'd previously provided funding for similar stuff, and I guess the the UCP, Kenny's party, United Conservative Party, is going to increase that further by another $10 million. I would say this is generally a good thing. Having more prosecutors means we can get through more of these cases because of the... What's the new law that recently changed that all the things are getting thrown out from? It's not called Jason's Law. It's something like that, though.
No, it's a decision. They quote the decision name. It's I'll stand by here in a second. But
I think it's Godwin's Law, I believe.
No, that's where everyone's a Nazi.
Oh, right. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Hitler.
Yeah, I can't find it in this article. There is a new
guy's name.
There is a ruling. It is somebody. It's like Jeremy or Jason or something. But basically, the government is not processing these cases fast enough, so they're having to prioritize and pick and choose what they're actually taking to trial and what they're dismissing, or I guess staying. I think is the correct term. Staying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the charges don't disappear. They can always come back at them later on if they commit a further crime, right?
Yeah. So they're
isn't that the problem though? Is that they're trying to like not allow previous things in if they weren't this and that, and that's why some of these things are taking longer, and that's why they got to give them a stay. And
oh well, hey, you want to see things that are taking longer and have to have back in the courts? Let's go down to Hamilton. This is very poorly written, and Allison Langley, you are a bad journalist. Bad. Turn in your credentials. No more press badge. Poorly written, but Hamilton Spectre article. He was shot by a homeowner in a Hamilton home invasion. Should his sentence be reduced? The emphatic answer is no. No, he should not. Robert Collingwood, 26, is a piece of shit who appeared in Ontario Court of Justice in St. Catharines last week. I'm editorializing slightly. I'll let the listeners figure out which part.
No, I think you nailed it.
For only being 500 words, you have to bear with me because Allison is a very bad journalist and her English is quite poor. Robert Collingwood, the home invader in this case, who subsequently got shot 4 times on 2 separate occasions. It took me a little while to parse the article to get that out, though. So he's pled guilty to a slew of charges, which I think that means a lot. Including a break and enter in 2017, which left him with gunshot wounds.
So in his experience, he feared for his life.
So, well, no, it gets better. So his defense attorney said that the global sentence should be 5 years, which is more appropriate. The Crown was originally seeking a 7-year jail sentence. And Mr. Collingwood, I got to read the quote from the lawyer because this is gold. Being shot does give a substantial discount to Mr. Collingwood, adding that his client turned to drugs after being shot, resulted in his which resulted in his criminal activity in Niagara.
One could also say
that's right.
He's lucky to be alive.
He got shot once during a break and enter, turned to drugs, and then committed more crimes where he was subsequently shot another time, which is why he's in this particular article, because the homeowner in that case, a 65-year-old man, armed himself with a shotgun and fired the intruders, who struck the defendant 3 times with shotgun blasts. That's right. This guy got shot 3 times with a shotgun, which is what he's on trial for now, after having turned to drugs because he was shot during a previous home invasion.
Yeah.
This guy's a fucking winner.
Yeah. If he only hadn't been shot, then he wouldn't have gone in the drugs. He wouldn't have gotten into trouble. So, yeah.
I mean, if he didn't break into a house, he would buy a home invader
or a home.
Oh well, hold on. Wait for it gets a little better. During the incident where he was shot 3 times with a shotgun, he entered the home. He intruded with an airsoft pistol. So he used a replica firearm in the commission of a crime in which he was shot 3 times with a shotgun because he was turning to drugs and crime after having been shot during a previous break and enter.
And using a replica gun, it has to be considered a real firearm during the commission of a crime, right?
Yes. It's treated as a real firearm. Yeah. So that's all from the Hamilton Spectator. the paper for people who don't read too good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very poorly written, and it took me a long time to parse out exactly what they were trying to get at. But
That demonstrates the fact that if somebody breaks into your home, you should make sure they're dead.
Yeah, the 3 S's is the rule that we recommend.
the opinions of the panelists do not represent legal advice and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the ownership and management of Canadian Patriot Podcast.
But if you like that article,
For legal purposes, I'm required to say that this is a joke.
If you like that article,
it's not a legal opinion, but my personal thing as an American is if you break into my home, you're gonna die.
I'm not sure why this dude had to break into 2 homes to get that far that he ended up getting shot.
Nothing to do with Canadian Patriot Podcast or anybody else on this podcast, but in my personal opinion, as an American, as an individual not affiliated with the podcast, if you break into my home and you're not welcome.
Well, I mean, you live in an area where that's allowed, which is amazing.
If you're trying to hurt anybody and you're trying to commit violence against me or my family or anybody else, and I fear for my life, you are going to die, and that's going to be the end of the story, like straight up. Yeah. And that has nothing to do with the podcast, nothing to do with any of these other guys on here. But if you break into my home and you're trying to hurt people, and like especially if you break in the night, the first thing I think of is that you're trying to fucking put violence on us, like deadly violence on us. I'm going to send you to your maker, and you will bleed out and die on the floor of my house if you ever try to hurt me or my family and take our lives. I guarantee you, that's the last place you fucking ever would want to try to fucking break into and fucking hurt people in, because I don't know what you're trying to do. The last thing I would ever let happen is any kind of deadly violence upon my family. Like, you will die. I will fucking kill you.
Oh, side note, our intern decided to point out that the staying of charges was brought up. It's Crown versus Jordan, so it's the Jordan decision now.
I was so close.
Crazy to me. That's what's also crazy to me. That it's even
thank you to Eric on YouTube for pointing that out.
States that I live in like here, like it was Texas and now it's Tennessee and stuff, and then soon to be Virginia and stuff. Like, if you break into somebody's home, and it's nighttime and stuff, like, there's not a duty to retreat. Like, if you break into somebody's home, like, and we have a fear of our life, like, you're going down. You're gonna die. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do. I don't know if we have a duty to retreat, but I feel like we probably have.
I think we do. But if you enjoyed Alison Langley's writing for the Hamilton Spectator in that article, you can find another article by her in the Niagara this week. Does your child have psychic abilities?
Oof. I'm gonna have to read that.
Does she use more prepositions?
That sounds fascinating.
Does she fail to use the article properly in her sentence structure? She does in this article.
I think she fails to use any article properly, including the one she writes.
I'm sure she feels great about home ownership and defending your own family and stuff. I'm sure she feels wonderful about that.
Let's go around to the other side of Toronto. We've got one from Oshawa. It's a very short one, but it's a good one.
Hear it.
Man arrested with 3 knives and a gun in an Oshawa bar.
Who needs 3 knives?
How'd it go for him? What was his ethnicity? That's my first question.
Is pirate an ethnicity?
Yeah. Stand and deliver, sir.
Did he have an eye patch?
No, but he had a flintlock pistol.
Percussion cap.
Is it percussion cap? Pardon me. It's actually a Derringer, though. Like, it is made by the Derringer company, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a legit...
If he stuck up somebody who was like, the year is 1771.
Oh, I wish I wasn't.
No, he's in Oshawa. He's not that far. He's east, but he's not that far east.
Did he just get off of a dreadnought and was like, God damn it, y'all.
I mean,
the charges on this are pretty good, though. 38 years old, no fixed address, charged with possession of a weapon dangerous to the public, careless carry of a firearm, contravene storage regulations, carry concealed weapon, unauthorized possession of a firearm, possession of a firearm knowing its possession is unauthorized, theft under 5,000, breach of a peace bond, and possession of a firearm obtained by a crime. So what I can gather from this is the firearm that the police found in his backpack was stolen, and he wasn't allowed to have it, in addition to all of the things that he broke about our gun laws for storage and transportation.
But if it's antique, was it actually a firearm?
That's the thing.
That's a good question. I don't know, when did they stop making these Derringers?
Because I mean, if it's before 1895, was it? Or
no, hold on. Was it Derringer or was it actually a flintlock pistol? Because that's a different thing.
So it's a percussion cap.
The percussion
It's
cap.
a percussion cap
Go to the show
pistol
notes.
made by the Derringer Company.
In Philadelphia.
No, I'm being honest with that question. Like, I saw the pistol, but it looked like a flintlock, just straight up.
It's percussion cap, but it's old school. Yeah.
There's no prison. It's just just a nipple and
So I mean, maybe the guy just like was looking for Blackbeard, you know?
Yeah.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
He had mental issues, but maybe he was looking for Blackbeard.
Yeah. They didn't ever say why he. He was threatening a couple. Arrested without incident.
Yeah,
So
if you are doing something dumb and
Maybe
illegal pistol. Maybe don't threaten people.
Maybe he was about to get him back on a boat and on the Halifax shore.
He's probably just trying to turn his life around.
He's a broken man on the Halifax Pier now.
Yeah. I mean, you know, sometimes you got to get back on that pier. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That story seems pretty weird to me. I feel like all the kidding aside, like people like that, like probably need to be looked after, like for real. I think that's the biggest problems we have in our respective countries, especially in my country, is mental health. There's some people that need to be looked after that aren't. And I think I have an opinion about why certain people aren't, and then they commit atrocities. Look at what happened in Florida. How many, literally dozens of police reports or whatever, and I think things are end up being allowed to happen for shitty reasons. But I think a guy rolling around with a flintlock in a bar. Bro.
Yeah, so it was produced from 1852 through to 1868.
So he won't even. They'll drop those charges because they can't make it stick. 'Cause it's not a real firearm, and unless he's pointed at somebody.
Yeah, if he threatened people, then it is. But if he was just carrying it in his pocket and didn't actually threaten people,
charge won't stick.
No, absolutely not. They may punish him by process, and it'll still cost him money, but they can't make the charges stick.
Yeah, because if he just had it in his
I
pocket,
feel
even
like
if
it's
it
going
was
to be
loaded,
my money, though, because the whole no fixed address thing makes me think he's getting a public defender.
probably.
Who's gonna get his back, like a public defender, right? So how does that work in Canada? Like a public defender for a guy with a firearms charge versus public defender in other countries for a firearms charge. I feel like it could go different. What do you think? Do you think that makes a difference?
Yes, litigators in our country don't know the firearms law.
Yeah, I think we'd probably be the only ones that would be able to say that this is not actually a firearm unless he committed a crime while it was in his possession.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that's because we have a ridiculous law.
Defenders up there would be like, dude, plead down to blah 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 blah. They wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even have the knowledge about the gun.
Although, if anybody has one of these Philadelphia Derringers for sale, contact the show.
Well, I want one.
Feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com for reasons.
Yeah.
Dude, we should do, you know what we need to do? In like 2 years when me and Tyler finally get our shit back together, do a joint podcast pirate cruise.
Yeah, cruise the seas for American gold is what you're saying?
Yeah, we should go from Newfoundland to US on a pirate ship, and invite we should invite guests. We should invite podcast listeners, whoever wants to come in. We should put all the money that we should have everybody that pay to come and join, and then donate all the proceeds to like veterans of both of our respective countries.
I'm in. As long as we get to drink copious amounts of rum and have flintlock pistols.
We just drink the whole trip, like we literally do it like fucking pirates.
Yeah.
Like we go from Newfoundland down to
cannons.
Canada and drink like fucking pirates.
We need cannons,
like a
flintlock
real
pistols, and rum.
Yeah, on a real pirate ship.
Yeah.
Let's do one. Well, I guess I've got a couple of more, but let's do the last two. It's not Key West, but we're actually going to go up to Nunavut. It's slightly colder than Key West.
Sort of the same thing.
Not really the same thing.
No, I remember because I went through the notes. I want to talk about this one. Anyway, go for it, brother.
So Nunavut's new 5-plex units will have gun cabinets, says housing minister. This is in the Nunavut News. Nunatsiak.
Yeah, that's it.
Nunatsiak. Thank you, Nunatsiak. There's a lot of
nutsack.
No tax. What?
Yeah.
Well, they pay.
One thing pisses me off immediately.
This is the housing minister in Nunavut. Apparently, in Nunavut, they're developing 5-plex housing units that will include gun cabinets. And this guy might be my new favorite politician. So, housing minister is Patrick Nestor. And in the Nunavut legislature, he was talking about this past week. This is a quote from the minister. There may be no better form of self-reliance than that of hunters on the land. But when they return, they need a safe place to store their firearms.
I just agreed with the politician.
I know.
I feel like
I'm okay.
Anyway, no, keep going. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt.
No, I think this is so they're going to be building some sort of government-sponsored housing. It's part of their blueprint for action housing, which is a Nunavut program. Their public housing corporation is going to be incorporating IQ. Please don't make me say that. It's a system of belief of like for the people, and it's Inuit Quillamejamekwekwenjit. I don't. Ian, can you say that word?
You tried.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's awesome.
It's
Inuit for I don't know what the actual correct name of their language is. I'm not.
The
I'm not trying to be insensitive.
The language is called Inuktitut.
Inuktitut. Thank you. So I don't read or speak this, but they have a word that means for the people. This is their like cultural word.
They have like 37 words for built-in gun cabinets.
Yeah.
That's snow. You're thinking of snow.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's built-in gun cabinets too. Also,
but
is it just me, or is this guy wearing like a sealskin vest in this photo? Because that's fucking awesome.
He is.
Yes, that has to be, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Just because you're up north doesn't mean you can't be stylish.
I feel like they're getting a rough treatment because they're really just a bunch of drunk assholes. And at the same time, they're probably tired of dealing with a bunch of fucking political assholes that came in here and tried to tell them what to do after they're just trying to live their lives. But I don't know.
I think that is the case in a big way because like the minister says that
when I say drunk assholes, I don't even mean that in that much. I'm not trying to be derogatory. Like there are probably a lot of people that like fucking leave me alone.
His last line too is awesome.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to get to. Is I'm a firm believer that the gun is not the danger; it's the person behind the gun that's the dangerous one.
Of course.
This guy is my new favorite politician.
What's his name again?
Patrick Netzer.
Netzer with an N. Netzer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Netzer. Yeah.
My mother-in-law is originally from Quebec, so I just need to have some ammunition.
Well, this guy's from Nunavut. He is not Quebecois.
Oh, so he's from Nunavut.
He's not having none of it.
Yeah, same language spoken in Northern Quebec, though.
Well, if I tell my mother-in-law I support the guy from none of it, she probably already has the prepared opinion about that type of shit. I do love my mother-in-law. She's an amazing woman. I hate to say that I have a different opinion about a lot of things. But anyway, these people from none of it, I'm sorry. I might sound like an ignorant American, but like I feel like the principles of libertarianism apply for the most part.
This guy is like my new favorite politician.
Yeah, fuck, leave me alone. Who the fuck needs fucking government talking about gun cabinets and houses? That just means that they're gonna control the shit. Fuck them. If I want a gun cabinet, I'm gonna put it in my house. Otherwise,
I don't know. But if I don't like that we're building houses. But if we're gonna build houses, I like that they're putting gun cabinets in them.
They should give everybody a gun first.
Honestly, it would not surprise me if we're not already doing that in a lot of these communities.
Well, if they are, that's pretty cool. Honestly, like straight up.
It is, and I appreciate that if we're going to provide public housing, that we're doing it in a a relatively safe and forward-thinking manner. That we're
providing public housing with a public gun and a public gun cabinet. Like,
this is a brand of socialism I can get behind.
That's cool. Okay, I'm okay with that. Fuck you. If people think I'm not being super libertarian when I believe that, like, fuck you. Like, if we're gonna fucking give public housing and shit to somebody, like especially the natives up in, I don't know what you call them. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but
you'd call them Eskimos. We'd call them Inuit.
The Inuit, like Eskimos or Inuits, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Like, okay, if we're gonna give them public housing, give them a gun and give them a gun safe. That's fucking cool. I'm a lot more on board with that than like giving people ECB credits to buy fucking whatever the fuck the store.
I'd rather be building houses and gun cabinets for these guys than safe injection sites in prisons. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, let's see how you feel about the next one. This is
I'm down with that. What does that say about us? Maybe we're not libertarian. Maybe we're just like.
No, I think we're just making the best of this situation that we live in. We're realists.
Yeah, maybe we're more realists than libertarians. I'm down with that shit, dude. Like, for real. Like, dude.
Let's do one that's local to Gavin. This is on In Saga. Here's how many guns Peel residents turned into police recently. During the 2019 Spring Gun Amnesty Program, Peel residents turned in 129 guns and 269 pounds of ammunition.
Kind of curious as to why they waited versus counted the rounds of ammunition.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it sounds scarier.
What do you think that is? What's your guess? Like, let's do this. We should have a competition. Well, okay. You should have a competition for your podcast listeners. Guess how many rounds 229 pounds is. And the winner.
Well, I mean, what's a 22? A 22 is 40 grains for the projectile. Figure it's maybe another
pretty quick.
It's probably like just under 4,000 rounds of 5.56.
Most people, probably have 22s and 5.56. Probably, I guarantee you, most of those people probably have 22s.
Well, I'm pretty sure
there's really weird guns. Like whoever lived in
a lot of 9,
that turned in the Thompson gun. You have made a bad life choice, sir. The person who turned in the AK, you have made a bad life choice. The MP40, you have made a bad life choice.
Two MP40s.
Two MP40s. I see a broom handle Mauser, a Luger. I also see like what looks to be a 16-inch or longer M16 with like the carry handle, but then a PDW stock on it. Like that's the weirdest combination of like.
That's the Armscore 22 caliber ripoff from Squires Bingham.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, that's a shitty old
22.
But like, why would you?
80s or 90s gun.
Why would you have a PDW stock on like a long-barreled rifle with a carry handle? That's so dumb.
That was back when ARs were first kind of a thing for the 22 market. They didn't know what else to do.
It's so dumb, though.
They probably didn't know what was going on. I mean, I feel like people get more educated as time goes. You know, I try to give people credit because at least if people are holding on to their shit, like I try to give them credit. Like I'm not some kind of fucking expert. You know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, whoever
don't throw stones. I try to get better about that type of shit. Like I'm like, you know, I could talk a lot of shit about a lot of people, but also a lot of people talk a lot of shit about me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that those MP40s or those 22 versions that came out that people just turned in,
or
airsoft, or like deactivated, like welded, and no hope of ever returning them to factory state. But like, you know that a bunch of this stuff is probably functional and has some historical value, and it's probably just going to get melted down now.
And if they're DWATs, they weren't firearms. He could have sold them for way more than what he handed them in for.
Yeah.
I take back part of what I said. If any of your shit's gonna get melted down and you ever allow that, like,
you can buy that. If that AK is functioning, it's like $300. If it's deactivated, it's like $2,000. Like, it's so dumb, but that's the way that it works.
All right. Do we have another news article? Because I want to get into talking about me joining. I do want to. Honestly, one of the reasons I joined is I want to talk about the recent law changes, and I feel like this, even if it's not on the notes, I feel like it would be very valuable for the American podcast listeners. And I want to share this with my American friends because a lot of them have been asking me about what's going on in Canada. So,
well, you should take it away.
Yeah, we can do a recap. I don't
know if we have other and like
give her
any other news articles. You know,
no, that was the last one.
So who wants to give a quick summary, and then I want to give my piece, and then we can discuss it. Is that cool?
So you're talking about the passage of C-71?
Yeah.
C-71. Break it down, what it meant, and like how it relates to current Canadian gun laws and what it did, and then we'll talk about the implications, if that's cool. Because I've had probably no bullshit 17 or so people ask me about the fuck's going on in Canada, like hunting buddies and like.
So there's a number of changes that C-71 takes into effect. It'll be an act to amend the Firearms Act. The Firearms Act is our governing legislation for how we own and use guns legally in Canada. Enhancements to the background check process. So this is, I believe, it's going to be a 10-year history instead of a 5-year history.
Lifetime.
And what does that mean?
It's a lifetime history. So this will be.
Yeah, so I guess every 5 years you have to reapply for your firearms license, and when they do that, they do an in-depth background check. So normally that would go back
10 years,
5 years. Now it is going to go back your entire lifetime. So for somebody like me that's had their license since they were like 16 years old, and mine went back to when I was 11 years old, they are now going to go back to the time that I was born.
Keep in mind that we are subject to something called continuous eligibility screening, which is effectively a background check that is run every day to make sure that we are not breaking laws.
Yeah, so if you've had a gun license for 5 years and you're up for renewal,
holy fuck,
and then you go to apply, your background check would go back to when you renewed your last time around, and because you still have your license and haven't been arrested, you should get it again. It's pretty obvious. So when you do that at renewal time, it's kind of dumb. Maybe on your first application it makes sense, but after that it's sort of redundant and pointless.
But now the problem is if you sought, like say if you were a veteran and you sought some PTSD counseling, then waited 5 years and got your firearms license, everything was fine now. But now they can go back and say, well, you had treatment for depression 15 years ago, therefore you're a dangerous to society, no firearms license for you. Which is probably a good idea to get some CCF legal insurance at that point.
Yeah, which is essentially going to deter people from going and getting the help that they need, because there are cases where people have admitted that they have had struggles in their past and they have been denied their license despite the fact that there is nothing wrong with them. they had some, hardship that they admitted to, and they've gone and sought treatment for it, and were never anywhere near being dangerous to themselves or anyone else, but have been denied or delayed in getting their license for no good reason.
So that's background checks. We also have a change to gun stores with mandatory record keeping. So we no longer have a record of long guns. That's most sporting, like hunting type rifles and shotguns. Basically anything that is not either prohibited or restricted, essentially pistols, full autos, converted autos, short barrel pistols, etc., etc. All of your normal hunting guns, your shotguns and rifles. We don't have a long gun registry anymore. However, firearms retailers will now be required to keep a registry of the guns that they sell, to whom the serial numbers and licenses. And I believe you have to have a new transfer permit number from the government. I don't know what we're calling that off the top of my head.
It's like the 4473 down in the States. So basically the stores have to keep a record of the initial sale. And then once you try and sell it, now you have to do a phone the CFO for a transfer number.
Well, yeah. So much like with your restricted, you're going to get a transfer authorization where they may not necessarily ask all of the same information as with your restricteds, but likely will.
But it's not a registry.
Yeah, it's not a registry and everything but name, of course, right?
Yeah. So yeah, if I want to sell a non-restricted firearm to anybody on the panel, I would need to call up the RCMP and tell them that I'm going to make a sale to this individual, provide them with their name and license number. They will then give me a number. I then give that number to the purchaser, who then calls it in and gives them the confirmation number, and then they will not transfer it, but authorize the sale.
And this applies to lending as well now.
Ugh.
There's also changes to the authorization to transport. So in addition to your regular license that allows you to purchase and own firearms, we also have a separate permission slip from the government that allows us to transport our restricted firearms to a place where you're allowed to transport them to legally. So those are
ranges?
Licensed and approved gun ranges.
Okay.
Gunsmiths, certain gun stores where there is a verifier, which is not necessarily the same thing as a gunsmith. Border crossings and gun shows?
Yes.
I think that's everything. I feel like there should be 7.
There's 5.
Well, then that was 5, so we're good.
Yeah.
So the ATT is currently under a change from the Harper government, our previous federal conservative government 4 years ago. They had changed it to make the authorization to transport a condition of your license, because if you had a firearms license, it makes sense that you would have restricted firearms that you would transport to a place where you could do so legally. We also have something with the concept of a short-term or a temporary ATT, which allows you to take a specific restricted firearm to a specific place on a specific date and time. So if you wanted to go to a place that wouldn't normally be on your ATT, like under the old system, if I wanted to go to the military range to shoot my guns at an event that's being held on a military range, we can do that, but that's not a Section 29 approved range under the Firearms Act, so it doesn't fall under my regular ATT. So I could call the CFO and I say, hey, I'm going to this event on a military range on this day and this time, and they would issue me a temporary ATT for that.
So fucked up, man.
That's a little bit weird.
Oh, it gets better, because now we got to talk about prohibited stuff and the new 12.6 or 12X class.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the big one. This is the big change.
That's what I want to know. That's the big change I want to know. It's because I kind of understand the prohibitive and restricted and non-restricted thing. I do want to.
So I guess
the change
for anybody that's
like partially
the very high level overview, we have 3 classes of firearms in our country. We have restricted, non-restricted, and prohibited.
Yeah.
From most restrictive to least, prohibited is anything the government says is prohibited because they say so, is fully automatic, is a converted automatic, or is a very, very short pistol. A restricted firearm is any handgun of any size that is not prohibited, or any other firearm that the government says is restricted but not prohibited. And a non-restricted firearm is everything that's left, and it has to meet certain size requirements. A barrel length of greater than 16, 18 inches? 440
It depends
millimeters.
on whether it's semi-automatic or manual action, but yeah.
Yeah, so it has to
Basically-
be a barrel length and an overall length. So basically, it's like the barrel has to be at least 16 inches, and the overall length has to be like 20 inches or 24 inches or something. But
26.
effectively, yeah, 26. Okay,
Yeah.
so effectively, anything that is not restricted or prohibited by default will become non-restricted. And this is your typical hunting, sporting rifles and shotguns. Your 870
Yeah.
and your Remington 700 and your that sort of gun. So the prohibited class is a number of different classes based on the type of prohibited arm of which it is, whether it's full auto, converted full auto, in that a fully automatic firearm that's
Or
going
it
to be
looks scary.
converted to
Yeah.
semi-automatic, or it looks scary like the AK, because AK-47s are prohibited by name.
Yeah.
Or short barrel pistols with a barrel length of less than 4.21 inches.
I might say P226 or P250. My
Yeah.
subcompact that I carry it like pretty much every day.
Yeah, so
So
subcompacts effectively are prohibited.
So in 1995, when this law came in, when the Current
Well,
Firearms
that's
Act came into effect, they had classified different guns, the different prohibited guns, into different classes. So you hear people talk about 12X, 12-1, 12-2,
Yeah.
12-3. These are
That's
different
right.
kinds of prohibited guns. And if you had one of these prohibited guns, sorry?
But they're all prohibited. All these different.
They're all prohibited for various reasons.
Yeah.
So if you owned a specific type of prohibited gun at the time when they became prohibited in 95, you could continue to own and purchase more of that kind of prohibited gun. So if you owned full auto machine guns, you had a 12-1 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you could continue to buy more 12-1 firearms.
So they're prohibited, Matt, but you can get a prohibited license.
If you owned
Right.
one at the time when it became prohibited. That's the trick. Is you had to have one.
All grandfathered, like all of it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all
But each
grandfathered.
one
So
is
if you,
grandfathered in its own separate category.
You still have lost all value from it in terms of resale.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, you can
Oh, God,
if you can buy an AK-47 today, it costs you about $300. But it's very hard to legally be somebody who can buy an AK-47 because they're considered machine guns. So you had to own another machine gun at the time that it became prohibited.
But if you owned a machine gun, but you didn't have like a subcompact pistol, you could only ever buy more machine guns. You wouldn't be trusted with other categories of prohibited firearms.
Right.
So long
So
story
the
short.
Yeah.
The change with this law is they're making new classes of firearms specifically to deal with two specific guns that were misclassified allegedly by the RCMP. I don't agree with the language, but that's what the government is saying. So the Swiss Arms series of rifles, there's a bunch of them: the classic black and the classic green and the special and the blue and the red, and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, the
But they're
commando
all-
that comes with no underwear and
Right. They're all effectively what Sig 550s, Sig 552s.
550s and 555s, I think, or something like that. But yeah,
Something like that. So they're Sig rifles, and the argument is that they were misclassified by the RCMP because they are actually built on full auto receivers in Switzerland by Sig Sauer, but the general consensus among gun owners is that's not the case, and the RCMP is high on their own supply.
Okay.
So these are very expensive. What's the price on a Swiss Arms? They're about prior to this, they were about $4,500.
I can tell you from good experience that they cost exactly $4,076.97.
Yes, but you got
Yeah.
yours on a pre-ban special sale because a certain retailer was trying to get rid of it. Shout out to Firearms Outlet Canada, right?
It's a gangbang.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
You just-
So it
you
would have
use
been
it in a drive-by and
it would have been a little
throw it
bit
in a
more.
river.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit more money than that traditionally.
Yeah, so this is a $4,000 piece of quality Swiss
Yeah.
engineering. There is an unknown number of them in Canada. They've been being sold in this
Beautiful
country
piece of
for
engineering. I've got one up there. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. They've been here for at least 10, maybe 15 years that we've been selling in this country without issue.
Yeah, not a single crime.
Nope.
And it is a high quality piece of engineering, and it's a $4,000 gun. And we don't know how many of them are in circulation because we don't have record of it because they were non-restricted. But apparently the RCMP may have made a mistake in classifying them, and they should have been classified as machine guns.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's the one. And the other one is the does somebody want to, Ian, you're the master of languages. Can you say the word CZ, but what it actually means? It's
I've never owned a CZ. I couldn't tell you.
Czeka Zabrovska, something of that effect.
Yeah, close enough.
CZ858. So
yeah, okay.
the CZ858 is
Yeah.
Oh, they're great gun. They're effectively Czechoslovakia's answer to the AK-47.
Yeah.
Czechia has a rich history of manufacturing and designing firearms. So as part of the Warsaw Pact countries, they were told you will use 7.62x39, and they said, it's cool, we're not using AK-47s though, we built this, it's better.
And it is.
Yeah.
It is. Last round bolt hold open. But effectively it's
Yep. I remember that part of it.
not significantly different from an AK-47 in manual of arms or operations because it's effectively interchangeable with other Warsaw Pact countries' arms. Uses 7.62x39, your standard AK round. Uses rock and lock mags, although they are not AK mags, they look very similar. Works on basically AK operating principles. It's a short stroke gas piston. It's basically Czechia's answer to the AK-47.
Yeah.
These guns originally 20 years ago they were retailing for about $600, give or take.
Yeah. Yeah, and now
in the last couple of years, they're going for between 12 and 15.
Yeah, brand new you're looking 15. The Canadian made versions are like 12, 13.
Good investment back in the day.
Oh, seriously good investment and beautiful guns. Very, very well made for being a
very, very nice gun. Yeah.
For being a peasant gun, it is a very nice gun because I mean you have to remember this is something that was
designed for crazy reliable and like just a workhorse. Yeah.
Yep. Great. So these are the two guns that they're potentially moving into new class. Well, I guess once this gets Royal Ascent, it will be moved into two new classes of prohib.
Yeah.
And anyone who owns them will be able to continue to own them. And unlike most prohibs, will continue to be able to take these to ranges and use them.
Yeah.
That's my question. So you can only take them to ranges.
Restricted firearms in Canada can only be used at a government-approved range with some weird exceptions. Because ranges are approved under Section 29 of the Firearms Act, except when they're not. So there's an amendment for that, whatever. But basically, restricted firearms, handguns, AR-15s, short-barreled rifles, certain short-barreled shotguns.
Well,
although with a manual action,
SBRs, but
it has to be a semi-automatic for it to be short. So anyway, there's a bunch of weird rules, but basically, restricted firearms can only be shot at a government-approved shooting range. Prohibited firearms cannot be shot at all, except again where there's an exception where they can be, because there are ways for collectors and museums to test fire their full autos and other assorted prohibited firearms. There are ways to make that happen, but it is indeed rare. So there'll be an exemption in C71 for the CZ858 and the Swiss arms to be allowed to be treated like a restricted firearm where you can take it to a government-approved range and continue shooting it. However, you won't be able to continue to use it as a hunting rifle, which is what it could have been used as previously when it was a non-restricted firearm. Because if it was non-restricted, you can take it out in the bush and you can hunt with it.
And when I die, I can't pass my prohib status on to my offspring or a other direct blood relative.
Which is, again, a change from the other prohibited class of firearms. Because if you own a prohibited firearm now and you die, you can will it to someone. And there's a special 12-7 class for that. Yeah, somebody's going to get mad. There is an option to inherit restricted prohibited firearms in the Firearms Act, except for the new classes that they're making for the Swiss Arms and the CZ858. They will not be subject to the inheritance ability that the other prohibited firearms
Who
have.
gets those rifles when you die?
The government.
The government. You get to turn them in and they're destroyed.
Now, the most important part of the new changes is the prohib class that's unspecified.
Yes, this is the scary class that we're concerned that we may end up with banned handguns, AR-15s,
Anything,
everything else,
yeah.
Potentially.
Well, so up until this point, the government has been the ones to either issue orders in council or debate in parliament what they're going to ban or change the designations on, and usually it was allowed with the firearms lab to make the decision. They would back it up, but now with this new change, they're allowing the firearms lab to be the sole determiner of what the new class of weapon will be, whether they just all of a sudden make all semi-automatics prohib, and there's no government oversight and no way to reverse it, if I understand correctly as well, right?
Yeah, unless they decide they want to reverse it.
Yeah.
Well, orders in council and legislation. And I contend that an order in council should never have been used to classify any firearms, because orders in council in our parliamentary system are things like the PM's office needs a new coat of paint. Can we spend some money out of the operating budget to paint some offices? It should never have been used to classify firearms. I'd say, in my opinion, it's a gross misuse of the OIC process. And every government since 1995 has failed the Canadian public by not reversing this, because this is not what ordering councils are supposed to be for.
So they've left this new prohib class open for basically future use, which they haven't determined what they're going to use it for, and that's what all the scare is about right now, Matt, is the fact is that nobody knows what this, as yet to be undetermined prohib class is for. There's a lot of conjecture going on right now, because really at this point, literally the day after it gets signed into law, they could theoretically use it to prohibit an entire section of weapons, whether it be semi-autos from 22 onwards.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
What's to stop them? What's stopping them?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The police are the people that are making the laws and then going to enforce the laws. So, I mean, it would basically be like the equivalent for you guys would be if like the ATF all of a sudden was given sweeping new powers that allowed them to create laws and then enforce the laws that they created. So like if all of a sudden they were to decide that suppressors are prohibited, and that now all of a sudden everybody that owned one was now in possession of a prohibited device and would have to either turn that in, or they could continue to own it, but upon their death had to turn it in. Like that's the equivalent.
So basically the police make the laws and enforce them. I think that's pretty much like a police state, isn't it?
Yes, I believe that is the correct term.
Meets the definition.
Yeah.
So they could, there's no criteria. It could be, anything that's magazine fed, anything that's semi-auto, anything that has an optic on it, or like whatever ridiculous criteria they could think of to ban things, they could do that with no ability for anyone to go to the government and go, this is unfair, we need to take a look at this. Because the government would have no say whatsoever in this, which is scary as fuck.
Bullshit, brother.
The weirdest thing, though, is that normally when a bill passes, it gets royal assent within like a day or two. This still hasn't, which is
parliamentary process for everybody out in podcast land that doesn't get this. 3 readings in the House of Commons, the lower chamber of Parliament. 3 readings in Senate, the upper chamber of Parliament, and then royal assent being signed into law by the Queen's representative in Canada. So normally between 3rd reading in the Senate and royal assent is a very, very short period of time, like a day or two. Like the paper goes on the desk and then it gets signed.
But interesting enough, this is just the equivalent of the president signing the bill into law or vetoing it. The Governor General very rarely, if ever, vetoes or doesn't sign it. But she's got a backlog of laws or bills that need to be signed that she hasn't dealt with, I guess, in the last few weeks, right? She's been kind of slack, which is good, but it's interesting.
Well, especially because, like, I guess if somehow a new election gets called between now and then, it all gets chucked out.
Yeah, so if
anything
it doesn't get
that's
signed
not
into law by the next election,
So we're in this weird gray zone right now where like it's passed, but it hasn't become law. So,
and even when she does sign it into law, there's still to be an effective date, like a coming into force date, which might be 6 months down the road. And I mean, that might be after the next election or whatever. It might be next week. I mean, depends on what.
Well, and so the weird thing is though is
I'm not positive, but I believe the fastest coming into force you can have is 30 days because it has to be gazetted. Again, we have an awesome legal process in our country where new laws have to be put into something called the Canadian Gazette and publicized.
Yeah, but like, so I've had to apply for a temporary ATT in order to take my firearms to the upcoming charity shoot. But currently, under the current system, I can take my firearms to the airport because that is a port of entry or exit without additional paperwork. I've already got the additional paperwork I need to have it on the other side of that, airport journey. But in the meantime, if this passes and becomes into law before that date, I'm going to have to apply for another one that's going to allow me to take my firearm to the airport, and then from the airport back home, which is dumb. Yeah.
What's that? Every gun law is an infringement?
Yes, I believe that's exactly what I said, just in more words. So yeah, dumb. But I guess speaking of the charity shoot, we should probably quickly mention that.
Yeah, give her.
So Saturday, July 6th, Drumheller District Shooting Association range. I will be there. Ian will be there. Angela will be there. Random Dave, I believe, will be there. Some other people that are on the pod cart will be there. Nobody cares about them. You're here to see us. There's some tickets that you can buy somewhere. There'll be a list in the show notes. You can buy a ticket for the actual day. There's also the pulled pork roast thingy going on after, which I'm sure will be absolutely delicious. Be rifle shooting from 25, 50, and 100 yards using those Matador Arms flapjack things, which will be pretty fun. Drills for pistol, steel at 200 and 300. Apparently, there's going to be some IPSC-style courses for fun. Apparently, some knife and axe throwing. Probably the most important part of this whole thing, though, is that I will be teaching a Stop the Bleed class, possibly two. If you follow us on Ragnarok Tactical, you can go there to get the links to buy tickets for those. All of the proceeds are going to go to the Big Country Anti-Violence Association and the local Humane Society.
There you go.
Yeah, good times. Lots of drinking. So that'll be good.
Yeah, brother. Well, I'm out. I do my thing, ladies and gentlemen. But it is what it is.
Well, I guess with that, we should do the outro. Matt, where can everybody find you when you're not
Liberty
in an undisclosed hotel room?
Yeah. Facebook.com/Liberty Death Podcast, International Liberty Death Podcast.com, and Liberty Death Podcast on Instagram, Stitcher. We're on Podcast Republic as well, Liberty Death Podcast. Just check us out. We're we got a hiatus going on, but we've got a lot of shit going on with family.
Yeah, just catch up on the back catalog, and by the time you do that, they'll be back on the air.
It's the back catalog, yeah, exactly. So you know how it is, brother.
All right, Gavin, where can everybody find you aside from the charity shoot?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at urbex_GTA, or I guess you can find Andrew and I both next weekend in person. I'll let you fill in the rest of those details, though.
Oh, Jesus. All right, thanks. Ian, where can everybody find you? I heard you also have a pod cart.
I do indeed. You can email me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. You can also find me in another podcast discussing general preparedness and less reliance on the man. It's called Canadian Prepper Podcast. You can find it on iTunes, and we also record live on YouTube.
Well,
all right. Tim, where can everybody find you on the internet?
You can find me at facebook.com/TimsGoodT-shirts. They're quite good.
They are.
They
are quite good.
And I guess that just leaves me. So what Gavin mentioned this weekend, if you're in Southern Ontario, you're probably going to want to head down to Silverdale Gun Club. go to the GAT show, GAT show. I don't have a link or any of that stuff. I don't know if there are still tickets available. I'm showing up. I have a booth. We're demoing Ragnarok stuff. Come and buy first aid supplies, or we'll have the Ragnarok booth and the Ragnarok truck there. So we'll have all the Ragnarok things, except training. We're not doing that. We're not having a live fire booth. There will be live fire at the event. You can go and I think they're going to have a Glock 48 is supposed to be the big thing that you can go and shoot.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of new things. But yeah, from my understanding, they just got their shipment of 48s in, so that should be interesting to go try.
Oh yeah.
So is there anything else?
Standard apologies.
Yeah.
Right. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka because he knows the rule. There can only be one.
Yeah.
And this week it's Ian. He's our token Westerner. If you want to be the token Westerner, you have to either be further east than the island or get on the podcast.
You mean further west?
What did I say?
East.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. You want to be further west.
Yeah.
Geography. It's challenging.
I'm glad you're including
or much further east so that you're actually further west. It's all relative, really.
Apologies to Rod. I understand that the Earth is not flat. Where's Marty when you need him?
Wait a minute.
Look at the bottom of your shoes.
Yeah, and I got an 8-foot level in the garage that says things that I put up in the house are flat too. That doesn't actually mean that the Earth is flat. Explain why we have to use the Coriolis effect when we shoot long range, Tim.
But the UN flag is flat. Come on.
The UN flag is flat. The UN flag should not exist.
Yeah.
If we defunded them, they wouldn't be able to use that money to create the optical illusion of it being flat.
That's
like I have a flag drop.
When I walked in this morning and saw the flag was at half-mast, I thought, all right, another bureaucrat ate it.
Keep in mind during Pride Month that all the bars on the Pride flag are straight.
Just a quick question. Why does Pride get a full month and veterans get 1 day for D-Day? Just out of curiosity, same month and everything else.
Because I haven't taken the day from the veterans yet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We'll get a month and a day.
Yeah.
Happy Pride Month, everybody.